Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Charles. I want to welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamerspro Show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, and where we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And in today's episode, the topic is the real reason they are still the biggest threat to the Clippers this year. So that's the topic I'm going to get into in today's video. But before we get into that, I want you guys to please make sure you go ahead and hit the like button, ensure that you make sure you hit the subscribe button, make sure you hit the notification bell to be notified whenever we drop our content. Also, check out Dreamerspro Max, an online sports community that we created, a place where you can start basketball discussions, chat live during games, and do so many other cool things. So if you guys are interested in that, be sure to check that out. We have that linked in the description below and get 7 days of access. Also, make sure you go ahead and click the join button to join the channel to receive loyalty badges and ensure that your comments are responded to. So make sure you go ahead and do that. Anyway, let me get into the topic here. So listen, the Clippers have had a very good 2 weeks of basketball, I'd have to say, right? They've been doing pretty good over the stretch. They won 7 out of their last 8 games. Right, they've been playing really well, although they had a loss to the Philadelphia 76ers, a game in which they lost by 3 points. I didn't make too much of that game. I know some people said, but did you see what happened with the free throw? I didn't really make much of it because we can go back and kind of talk about it, but the game is over anyway, and they have to move on. Like, they have to just be prepared to move on to the next game. And the most impressive thing to me, in my opinion, or one of the most impressive things about the Clippers doing this run is that they've been getting all of these wins with so many different lineups. Right? During this stretch of games, I think Kawhi missed about 2 to 3 games over this stretch. Paul George, I know, missed a game. Serge Ibaka and Patrick Beverley, they've missed a bunch of games during this stretch. Pretty much, I mean, Serge has missed, Serge has missed about 16 games in a row. Patrick Beverley came back for 1 or 2 games. Then we found out he had a fractured hand or something like this, and he was going to be out for another 3 to 4 weeks, right? So these 2 guys have just not been able to be healthy since the All-Star break. Nevertheless, they've still been winning games. Their defense has been improved overall since the All-Star break. They're now a top 10 team as far as defensive rating. They're ranked in the top 10. Opponents' points per game, I think they're in the top 6 or 7, if I'm not mistaken. But over this stretch, they've been kind of hit or miss, right? They've had some games where they did well. For instance, the Philadelphia 76ers, they held them to 106 points per game, 106 points in that game. They played the Lakers, they held them to 86 points. But then you had some wins against, like, the Detroit Pistons, where their opponent was able to score a ton of points, although they ended up winning that game. I think their offense really bailed them out in that game. The Clippers are still the number 1 3-point shooting team in the NBA. They're shooting over 40, I think around 41.8% from the 3 for the season. Their 3-point shooting is what usually keeps them in a lot of these games. It's a strength, right? In this league, as they say, it's a make or miss league. Whether you make it missing 2s or 3s, it's a make or miss league. And for them, they've been able to rely on that shot for pretty much 70% of the season, or 2/3 of the season so far. And it's really helped them help them along the way. They've had also some good development from certain players like Marcus Morris Sr., who's really stepped up. Terrence Mann has really stepped up. Reggie Jackson has really stepped up in that six man kind of role, although he's been starting a lot because Patrick Beverley has been injured, but he's been really just sensational. He's been scorching over this stretch. He's been scoring a lot of points, right? And he's shown that he can really be a good, punch off the bench, offensive punch off the bench, as given the fact that they lost their 2-time, I think their former 6-man who won 2 6-man of the year awards, I think with the Clippers, in Lou Williams, right? So he's really stepped up and helped them there. But with all of that being said, right, with all these great things that are happening, the champs are warming up. The champs, the Los Angeles Lakers, are warming up. While all of this is going on, the Lakers are somehow still winning games, right? If I look at the Lakers here and I look at the Western Conference standings, the Lakers right now are in the number 5 spot, right? They've won 5 out of 5, but they've just been kind of staying afloat. They've had some pretty impressive wins. They recently beat the Brooklyn Nets. We had that win. And then just last night, they beat the Utah Jazz, the number 1 team in the Western Conference. They beat them in overtime, right? Without Anthony Davis, without LeBron James. That was highly impressive. Now, I know Donovan Mitchell was injured, has been, got banged up recently, but still, to go out there and beat the number 1 team in the Western, and the number 1 team in the NBA without your 2 best players, and then you have Andre Drummond starting to kind of find his way in that offense, that was very impressive, right? The Lakers are still the number 1 defensive team as far as defensive rating in the NBA, right? The Lakers they're still good, and guess what? Anthony Davis, I think, is going to return next week. AD has been gone for, 15 games or so, 15, 20 games. He's returning next week. Then right behind him, LeBron James will be coming back, right? And once you add their 2 best players, then the Lakers are going to be much better than they are already, right? The Lakers are going to start finding their mojo again, right? They're still the champs, and I've said this all season long. Since the beginning of the season, I said it. Since we went into this season, I said, listen, The favorites to come out of the West are going to be the Lakers. Number one, I said because they're the defending champs. Out of respect, you have to give them their respect. I said that, number one. Number two, they've already proven to themselves, not talking about LeBron, but players like AD, KCP, and others, they've proven to themselves that they can become champions. They've kind of figured out the formula, right? So they have that confidence going back into the, going into the second season to try to go out there and win it again because they already did it, right? It's not like I said they're trying to do something they never accomplished. They're trying to do it. They're just trying to repeat a result that they already achieved once before. So I said that they had that on their side. Another thing is the Lakers are deep. Now, they're a little bit different than they were last year. They didn't have as much size, but they've really bolstered their size with the addition of Andre Drummond. They still do have Marc Gasol there, and they're going to get back Anthony Davis, who's an all-world defensive player, right? They have leadership. LeBron is going to be steering that ship, right? LeBron James is coming back, and he's a leader. They have a great coach in Frank Vogel, who's now a championship coach, so he knows his schemes and offensive and his philosophies as a coach work. They have a good coaching staff, right? And he's a defensive-minded coach, and that's one of the reasons why you've seen them been able to sort of stay afloat while their two stars have been out, because their defense has been keeping them in games, right? The Lakers have all of these things sort of working in their favor, and for me, the Clippers need to be ready to deal with that. Once the Lakers get healthy, right? Once LeBron James comes back, it's going to take LeBron some games, maybe 6 to 10 games to get his legs under him. AD as well, but AD is coming back before LeBron, if I'm not mistaken. Once these guys start getting back into a rhythm and you give them about 8 to 10 games, right? They figure out a way to kind of play with Andre Drummond, who's a major piece that just added to that championship team, that championship formula that they're trying to sort of recreate or duplicate or whatever it is. The Lakers are going to be formidable, right? I trust the Lakers over the Jazz, over the Phoenix Suns, certainly. The Phoenix Suns just lost yesterday. Who did they lose to? The Phoenix Suns lost yesterday. I think they lost by 20 plus points. The Phoenix Suns, let me just pull up their information here. The Phoenix Suns had a pretty bad loss last night. They lost yesterday, I think they lost by a pretty good. They lost to the San Antonio Spurs, 111-85. That's a 20-point loss. Now, I don't know what players played or not, but the Phoenix Suns, again, are showing you that they're not the Lakers. That's why I said people are talking about the Suns, people are talking about the Jazz, but that's why so many people in the media are still talking about the Lakers, because they know of all of these teams, this is the most serious team, right? And this is the team that has shown you that it can do it. Now, on the Clippers side, we're going to get to them a little bit later, but the Clippers need to be prepared for that. The Lakers are still the champs, right? And the Clippers have been doing this thing where they've been resting players and all of this stuff. They've been resting a lot of players. You need to start getting some continuity going into the playoffs, because the Lakers, I'm just going to say it now, I think the Lakers are going to be ready. I think LeBron James is going to be ready. As prepared and as ready as the Clippers are to go face the Lakers, I think the Lakers are going to be ready to take the Clippers' best shot. Now, if these two teams match up in the playoff series, I'm still picking the Clippers to win it all. But it's not one of these things where, like, okay, the Lakers we've been looking at, or the Lakers are going to see. LeBron is coming back, AD is coming back, and this team is going to be different. And the Clippers must be wary of the Lakers. I'm saying it now. The Lakers are still the favorite to come out of the West. For all of the reasons that I've given, they've already proven they can win. The Clippers still need to prove that they can win. So they need to be ready for the Lakers when they come back, and I think it's something that we all need to keep a close eye on, especially as the season is waning down, because if the Lakers get hot and they get into their mojo, they're going to be a tough out for anybody in the NBA, because they still are a very good defensive team, and they still have LeBron James and Anthony Davis, and there's something to be said for having the two of the top 10 players in the NBA. That's something to say, right? So what I want to know from you guys is, do you think the Clippers need to be ready? They need to stay, they need to be on alert? Or do you think, listen, you don't think this is going to be the year that the Lakers are going to go back and repeat, and listen, it's over for the Lakers? Whatever you guys think, please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. Again, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to make sure you go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, make sure you hit the notification bell to be notified whenever we drop our content. Also, make sure you go ahead and click the join button to join the channel. It's next to the subscribe button to get your membership badges, and also to make sure your comments are responded to. Once again, this is Charles here from Dreamerspro, wishing you guys an amazing day. Catch you guys on the next episode. Peace.